You got some studs up front. You got that O-line humming. Pass protection's good. Run game's effective. Now we hold all the play action pass. They work hand in hand. They're the same to me.
Greg Roman talked about he wants to have physicality. He wants to dominate the trenches. And I think the Chargers upgraded the run game to a degree. You brought in Mekhi Becton. He's going to provide you with another upgrade to that O-line and physicality of how they want to play. They drafted Omarion Hampton. They brought in Najee Harris. They drafted a tight end. So I think the run game will improve. How much will improve is the question. But my question is, what happens when you can't dominate the trenches? Can you still play in a way that will allow you to win the game? Or is Greg Roman sort of captive to that style of play where he can't pivot away from dominating the trenches to a scheme or philosophy that is still productive but is not captive to a run game and dominating the trenches? Can you maybe pivot to a West Coast offense? Can you pivot to a style of play in which the Commanders play, where you can get the ball out quick, you can use wide receiver screens, you can use wide zone runs where you can still be effective without incredibly dominant O-line? And I'm not saying like your O-line is so bad that you still can be productive. I mean, you still expect a certain level of performance by the O-line, but maybe they're not the most dominant. And maybe that's a maturity aspect to Herbert's game as well, is that he can pivot to being productive with short passes. He is not trying to be the hero and throw deep bombs and expect to pull us out of the game that way. He can be patient, he can be productive with short passes and just drive the ball methodically down the field, kind of the way Tom Brady could do it when he played. There's certain knowledge of, I know I can't just throw a long bomb every play, I need to set up these long bomb explosive plays, throw the short pass, train the defense to play shorter passes, and then occasionally go for a long attempt. And then Coach Harbaugh said on Pat McAfee that you want to have tendencies, then you want to use that predictability to your advantage. What is
Greg Roman, people that want to talk finesse, out trick them. And Greg talks about it like, we want to have tendency, be predictable. That predictability to our advantage. Dad played at Bowling Green, played for Dwight Perry, legendary coach, and he said it this, it came in, he said, this is how you do foot, late 1960s. It's more of a finesse game now. And Dwight Perry said, yeah, I'll show you how to finesse somebody, and that's to knock another man on his rear end. That's the only finesse that I understand when it comes to football.
A lot of people say you got to finesse them, and in the back of your mind, we ain't. What are we? Yeah. This is what football is. Power. This is what football is.
The difference between power and finesse is my question. I think in an ideal world, yeah, you would like to be the more powerful team, but I think there's a certain aspect of playing football that requires finesse. And what exactly is finesse? So I asked Croc, power and finesse to describe contrasting plays, playing styles, or strategies often apply to players, positions, and team schemes. Here's the difference. Power emphasizes physical strength, aggression, and direct force. Power-based offenses focus on straightforward physical plays such as inside runs, power or counter runs with strong offensive line blocking to create holes. It's effective in short yardage situations. Finesse prioritizes speed, agility, technique, precision over raw strength, sharp cuts, and vision to evade defenders. In terms of scheme, finesse offenses use spread out formations, quick passes, outside runs, zone or stretch plays to exploit speed and space. Defensively, finesse is seen in coverage-focused schemes or edge rushers using speed to bypass blockers. It's effective in open field situations or outmaneuvering opponents. Key contrasts: power is about smash-mouth football, finesse is about outsmarting or outpacing them with skill and speed. Teams often blend both. And here's a key component of that. Each style suits different players' builds, game situations, and team philosophies. So if you're trying to run a power-based offense without power-based players, obviously that's not going to work. And I think last year they tried to do that. They tried to run a power-based offense, but I don't think they necessarily had that. They're trying to get to that point. They brought in some new guys. And so we'll see how much that part of their game has improved. But can they still play in a way that is not power-based? Offensive schemes in the NFL that prioritize finesse over power are a West Coast offense, emphasize short, quick passes to control the game, relies on timing, rhythm, precision, routes by receivers. The finesse element uses quick slant screens underneath routes to exploit defensive gaps. A spread offense stresses the defense, creating mismatches and opening running lanes, relies on fast skill players and mobile quarterbacks. For example, Lamar Jackson, read option plays to exploit speed. Air raid offense, it's a pass-heavy scheme that spreads the field with multiple receivers and throws frequently, often 50 times per game. The finesse element is a precision route running, quick releases, exploiting one-on-one matchups. Receivers use speed and cuts to get open. Example, Cliff Kingsbury's Cardinals with Kyler Murray. Zone running scheme, outside zone stretch. Running plays where offensive line moves laterally to create cutback lanes, allowing running backs to find open space. The finesse element is the agile running back. Christian McCaffrey uses vision and quick cuts to exploit gaps. Option-based offenses, read, option, RPO. Examples in the NFL, teams like Kansas City Chiefs, Andy Reid spread, West Coast hybrid, and Miami Dolphins, Mike McDaniel's zone-based scheme, lean heavily on finesse, leveraging players like Patrick Mahomes or Tua Tagovailoa, the fast skill players. Conclusive in the NFL and most sports, a balance of power finesse is ideal. Teams and athletes who can leverage both, using power to control physical battles and finesse to exploit space, tend to succeed most consistently. If forced to choose, finesse may have a slight edge in today's NFL due to its adaptability and alignment with current roles, but power remains a timeless necessity in critical moments. So if you think power is everything, try hitting a golf ball. If you try to use too much power, you might miss the ball, or you might hit it in a way that it's completely off course. But if you combine that power with technique, precision, finesse, then you have the best of both worlds. Roman also talked about Alt being bigger, stronger. He's really impressed with Gadsden, and he wants to build the team with McConkey. Coach Harbaugh said in his presser with the Chargers yesterday, when you're in shirts and shorts, you want to work on your technique. He wants to polish up things. He talks about Ben Herbert and working on flexibility, mobility, speed, agility, and that the rookies are not quite where the veterans are at the moment. So I thought it was interesting that he said that because he believes in finesse attributes of players. So it leads me to believe that he believes in what Ben Herbert's doing. Obviously, he said that multiple times, but he also believes that power is in everything, and he values the attributes that are associated with finesse. He also said that as good of a rookie class as ever about going about their business. So if you go to the games that we lost last year, right, the first game we lost was against the Steelers. Essentially, they outpowered us. Then we lost to Kansas City 17-10. They outpowered us as well. Then we had the bye week, and then we kind of pivoted to a more passing, more spread, I think. I thought that was particularly obvious against the Browns. I think they had a good defense, but we kind of out-leveraged them, out-passed them. But then we faced the Ravens. They kind of outpowered us. And then Chiefs again, and then Bucs definitely outpowered us. Get the snap count from last year and all our players. You had, I think Bozeman played all the snaps. Zion Johnson played most, 99. Joel played 96. So you had essentially three offensive linemen that played nearly all the snaps. Rashawn Slater played 86%. Trey Pipkins played 75. Jamari Sawyer played 36. So essentially you had about 5 players that played most of the snaps, and then you had a kind of rotational player in Jamari Sawyer. So you utilized about 6 players. Obviously, Mustapher, Foster Sorrell, Brendan Hymas, Jordan McFadden all were played a little bit, but not too much. So in thinking of the roster constructions, maybe they only want to roster 6 offensive linemen, considering the snap count from last year, in the hopes of rostering other players that might be more developmental, and that could be another offensive lineman like Branson Taylor, or maybe someone else. Could be a wide receiver, could be another running back. If you look at the cornerbacks, you had Christian Fulton, Tarheeb Steele played 74%, Cam Hart played 45%, Jasir Taylor played 32%, Asante Samuel played 21%, Dean Leonard played 8%, Eli Apple played 4%, DiCaprio Boodle played 0%. Essentially, you had 4 cornerbacks that kind of played a good amount. You look at defensive interior, you had about 4 that played the majority. And if you look at edges, you had about 4 again that played the majority of the plays. If you look at running backs, you had about 4 that played the majority. However, I think with the durability of Najee Harris and the youth of Amari and Hampton, I think you ask yourself, do you really need a 3rd running back? So I wonder if they roll with just 2 running backs on the roster this year, that would open up a spot for another player, another developmental player that maybe they see a lot of upside and would rather have on the roster rather than on the practice squad. If you look at linebackers, Dion played 96% with 3 other linebackers playing 21% to 32%. Look at safeties. You had about 6 that played. I mean, you really had 3 that played the majority, and then another 3 that were rotational. Then tight ends, Will Disley played majority. Then you had kind of 4 that were rotational. And I was kind of looking at the Steve Klotz and the difference between him and Tucker Fisk. Steve Klotz is 6'4", 260. I think he's a little bit more speedy than Tucker Fisk. I think he might provide you more in the pass game, but Tucker Fisk has been really good in the run game. But he's 20 pounds heavier at 280, a little bit slower. I don't think he provides you much in the pass game, but it does give you that solid run block in the run game, kind of the bully ball that, Roman and Harbaugh want to play. So do you go with something that is more sure, or do you want more versatility in Steve Klotz? or maybe Steve Klotz can occupy kind of a roster spot that can be taken away from another position, or maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you don't want to risk having an injury and then not having someone who can rotate in, because as we've seen before, that could really handicap the Chargers season when they have an injury to an offensive lineman and they don't have a good backup to come in and assist. So I kind of went back and was looking at the scores of last year's schedule, and most games were close except for the Buccaneers. They pretty much dominated us, and I was kind of going back and looking at the defensive side of the ball, and what caught my eye was kind of most of the explosive plays. Derwin was somehow involved with it. Look at this first play, kind of let that tight end get outside of him. The second play, it's kind of a natural pick caused by the press from Derwin, and I'm thinking, how can that play be better? Either Derwin needs to do a switch and take that outside guy, or I think that's Dean Leonard needs to have a better angle, or Still and Dean Leonard need to switch. The next play, Baker Mayfield kind of takes off, and I'm trying to figure out who's supposed to get him. You kind of look at who are the closest defenders in proximity. It's Derwin and the cornerback. I think that's Tarheeb Still. But you have the inside linebacker to Derwin's right, and so if Derwin were to come off his guy, he would have that linebacker to assist to his right, and so I'm thinking that should be Derwin coming off his guy. Next play, they kind of have a spread offense. They run it up the middle, and it's just too many yards. And I'm thinking, who should be the guy that needs to make that play? Morgan Fox gets blocked one-on-one. So does the rest of the defensive linemen. If you're only playing 4 D linemen to stop the run, maybe Tully shouldn't rush the passer because you have 7 guarding the pass, not blitzing. So I'm not sure how that can be better, or you can have the safety to Henley's right, have him watch for run while playing the pass, and then he can play that a little bit faster because he's looking at the wide receiver. He doesn't see the run immediately. Here's another long run. So here you kind of see Derwin and Henley take the same gap. So I'm thinking Derwin needs to be outside of 88, not get blocked down, because you have Henley playing the inside. So again, I'm seeing this explosive play, and Derwin's kind of in the middle of it. Here's another explosive run. Tully takes an inside gap, and Derwin should know to be outside. He has outside contain, and he lets the guy get outside of him. Here is a pass. I think Tarheeb misses the tackle, and it goes for a touchdown. Next play, you have an inside run. Bosa takes outside. I'm looking at the defensive interiors. Looks like the right D tackle is getting the near side A gap, which means the other defensive tackle is getting the near side B gap, which means the backside linebacker, Troy Dye, is getting that C gap, and Henley's getting the D gap. So I think Derwin played that properly. However, if they're going to run through that gap, it needs to be squeezed down better by everyone. Bosa, D tackle, Troy Dye, Henley, as well as Derwin. So can't say it's any one person's fault on that play. Probably mostly Henley, because he looks like he's probably the one that is getting the gap that the running back runs through. But Perriman is kind of that run thumper that they probably needed in this game. Unfortunately, he got injured. Next play, here's another pass play. I think they got called for holding. Next play, here's a pass on a kind of a skinny post. I'm looking at Molden and kind of looking at the defense that Harbaugh's been associated with. This seems to be a reoccurring vulnerability of this defense. It looks to be some sort of Tampa 2. So I'm thinking Derwin either needs to play this better. He needs to work that middle a little bit better. But it looks like he's playing more the 2 wide receiver side. So he kind of turns his back to the single side receiver. So if he's going to play it that way, it makes me think that Molden should do a better job, because he's not really guarding anybody. So if he sees that single side receiver go upfield, then he needs to be looking to his left, see who's coming across the field. And if he doesn't see anybody, then he needs to get back and help with the deep routes. And I think he's just too late on it. And so he needs to play that faster. He needs to get better with the route recognition. Either that or Derwin needs to play it better, because that play just looked too easy. The next play, Derwin plays this run really well. He commands two blocks, and I think that helps free up someone else, and they do a good job stopping the run play. Next play, they say send 7-man, and it's just easy pitch and catch. Next play, Derwin blitzes, is a screen, and so I think Junior Colson needs to play this better. If they're taking inside slant and he has inside backside help from that safety, then he needs to make sure he gets to that outside contain, because no one's out there to help him or no one's out there to make the tackle. So they probably get more yards than they should on this play because they get to the outside where no one's at. Then I'm looking at this play. It's a kind of a slant to the right by the D-line, and then the linebacker is blitzing off of that. Pipkins is kind of late diagnosing passing his guy off. Probably needs to have better recognition of that. I think Kamani can do a better job picking that up. However, I think he thought Pipkins was going to help him in the inside and he was going to get the outside, and so he kind of lets him turn him. I think Herbert can also do a better job kind of sidestepping that. Next play, here's another run play. I don't know why Junior Colson goes to the left. Maybe he was trying to overcompensate for Morgan Fox, but he can easily make that tackle if he went right. I think Henley has to do a better job recognizing the run and squeezing the gaps. It's another run. It's like 93. Just gets really blown out of there. I think Dupree at the top probably needs to do a better job squeezing. The angle from Junior Colson was not great because it allows them to get kind of moved. It's a decent tackle by 23. And looking at this next play, a play action pass play, obviously a play action pass has some trickery involved with it. I know Jim Harbaugh said it's not about tricking people, but essentially that's what a play action pass is, right? You're making it look like it's going to be a run, but then you're passing it. So what makes this play possible is having a good pass catching tight end that we had in Stone Smart. Unfortunately, he wasn't that great of a blocker. But point is that the reason this play worked wasn't because of power, wasn't because of knocking someone on their butt. It was the perception of one thing that opens up another. And so I think most of the games that we won last year, we either won or lost because we either did decently well running it, which helped our pass, or we lost it because we couldn't run it. And I think eventually we're probably slowly getting to the point of where we can play bully ball and use power and have a top team that can run the ball, but I don't think we're quite there yet, and I don't know if we will be too much this year either. And so where our strength is, I think it's in our quarterback and our wide receivers, but hopefully we find more balance. I thought Broncos game was a good game where it kind of represented the versatility of the offense. On this first play, we have under center, we have a 11 personnel. We play action pass, works well. Then we pivot to a empty set, and we do a wide receiver screen, and that seems to work decently well. Here we have a 2 tight end set, play action pass, works really well. Not really well, but well enough. A wheel route by Kamani Vidal, which is another example of kind of versatility of the offense. Hopefully Amarian Hampton can be that running back where he can provide pass catching, pass blocking, dominant running